Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'm going to let Pauline welcome you all first, and then we'll get started into the actual event.
Brilliant, okay, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming along. Welcome everyone to the first Wellbeing webinar, part of a continuous series of courses and resources provided by the EIS focusing on teacher health and wellbeing. Thank you to Scottish Union Learning for continuing to fund this area of work. So we really are here for the good of our own health this evening, and the next 90 minutes will be a wellbeing workout without the need of that yoga mat. Before we start, we want to recognise that our wellbeing needs are rooted much further back than the COVID context we find ourselves in right now, and will last much longer. We also want to acknowledge that our own self-care is one part of a wider picture, affected by a 35-hour contract, our rights, and our employers' responsibilities. So coming back into the room and over to Emer Stassen, who I am absolutely delighted is continuing to work with us and who will be leading this session.
Thank you so much, Pauline. Thank you for offering this, and I really love partnering with you and being able to offer this in this format as well as a webinar. So I know people are still arriving. This session is being recorded as well, so you can go back and view if you really want to see the starting point too. So this session is a workout, and as Pauline said, not the kind of type where we're going to be lifting heavy weights or anything, but it will be an invitation. It's around creating our foundations for good health and well-being. So it very much is an invitation to place any distractions or anything that's been going on up until this point of you arriving here, just place it to the side, and it's allowing you to sink into this experience for today, so relaxing our logical minds. So my name is Emer Stassen, as Pauline had said. I'm a trainer and coach, and really feel very strongly around this topic of health and well-being and looking after ourselves first before taking care of others as well. So what we're going to be exploring today in this 90 minutes is looking at the foundations for good mental health. And what I should say just now is that it may not be what you think it's going to be. So it'll be around you creating and exploring what your foundations mean for you. So we're going to practice as well becoming more grounded. So we're going to start with that in a moment. And then explore holding space in the form of deep listening. What does that mean? What's it like? You're going to experience that. Then we're going to look at areas where perhaps you might be experiencing some dramas or conflict in your life and work, and practice stepping out of that. So don't worry, there aren't any role plays or anything. It really is looking at the power dynamic that may be going on and how we can create more healthier boundaries that can really help with your own health and well-being. And then exploring tools and techniques and how to practically inspire good health and well-being for yourself and others. And everything that you learn today is first and foremost for yourself to experience, and you're also invited to bring that back with you to the classroom, through the workplace, to wherever you are working right now, and for your life as well. Very versatile tools that we're exploring. So welcome to those of you that have just joined, and you're just in time because we're going to be diving into a grounding exercise. So what this involves is basically becoming more present with where you are right now. So I'm gathering most of you are sitting down. I know one person is cooking stuffed mushrooms in their kitchen. So wherever you are right now, it's just a moment to pause, and you can close your eyes or soften your gaze and bring your attention to your breath. And as you're bringing your attention to your breath, you don't need to change anything or do anything. It is simply a noticing exercise. How is your breath right now? Have you asked your breath that today yet? How are you doing, breath? And now you can bring your attention to your feet. and particularly to the soles of your feet. And if your feet are flat on the ground, that's wonderful. And as you're bringing your attention to the soles of your feet, you can imagine that there are roots unfurling from the soles of your feet and magically making their way down into the earth beneath you. And it doesn't matter where you are or what floor you're on, these roots will magically know where to go. And as your roots are making their way down into the ground, into the earth, you can imagine them spreading out as well. And the wonderful thing with this is that by just imagining and bringing your attention to roots in your feet, this can really help stabilize you and help you begin to create even firmer foundations for you to go about your day with. So just notice what's arising for you. And as you're doing this, you can imagine that anything, any distractions, any tensions, anything that's on your mind right now from the day that you've had, you can just breathe that down and out through your roots and into the earth. So anything that isn't serving you right now or distracting you, you can breathe that out through your roots into the ground. And as you're doing this, this will clear space for you to breathe in lovely earthy energy to support you for this adventure that we're going to embark on just now. So bringing your attention back to your breath, you can breathe in through your nose and out. And one more time, in through your nose and out. And let's do another one. In through your nose and out. So welcome here again, and you may notice something different, that you might feel more settled and arrived into this space here today. So thank you for taking part in that. And as an ultimate foundation for your own health and well-being, our breath is our biggest ally because we have this with us at every moment. So at any moment where you're feeling like you're going into overwhelm or stress, connect with your breath and just notice how you're breathing without any judging or criticism. And then take a deep breath. And the same with your roots. So you can furl your roots back up into your soles for the next time you need them, and stretch out if you need to, and open your eyes. Because what we're going to be exploring now is an exercise to become even more present, because it sometimes takes a few layers to become even more present. And this exercise is called holding space. So in a moment, we're going to split you into groups, so you will get to work with another partner. And when you arrive in your room, you can do brief introductions, but resist the temptation of going into a chat. Because what I'm going to ask is that one person decides who's going to speak first. You'll both get a chance to speak. And you can speak about whatever is alive for you right now. And you're going to have 3 minutes to do that. So the floor is yours for 3 minutes in your small breakout room. And then the listener is going to listen. Okay? And then we'll give you a time warning after 3 minutes. And then you can swap over, so the listener becomes the speaker, speaking about whatever is alive for you right now. So it's everything and anything. You don't need to plan for this. And if there are no words, you can be in silence if you wish. So this is about noticing what this is like for you. Okay. So a little bit more around what that exercise was about. And thank you all for diving in there first of all. Because what we're doing here with this exercise is holding space for yourself, holding space for another person or people or group of people. And it is very much open. We're letting go of any judgment or any outcome or way of steering how we want the conversation to go. We're connecting with that other person, which is what some of you shared. You felt that connection. And it's an invitation to stay very present as well as to how you are and what's going on within you, most importantly, as well as the external, what's going on. And you're trusting that this is a really powerful process and we're not diving in to fix anything at this moment. It's very much leaving it open to air. Okay. So that is holding space, something that you can apply immediately in your life and work. That was just 3 minutes. You can hold space for any length of time. And it's about noticing what difference that makes for you and the other person as well. So when we're exploring good foundations of well-being, we're focusing on the World Health Organization definition. And it is a very broad definition where it is this state. So it is like a felt sense, a state. It's like our inner landscape of what's going on for us, where we're realizing our own potential. We're coping with the normal stresses. And referring back to what Colin was saying, it is not normal what's going on now. So how can we really be with ourselves, with what's going on, and create really healthy boundaries and foundations? It's where we're working productively and we're making a contribution. So that's just for the well-being and what we're exploring. And in relation to creating foundations, this is specifically what we're focusing on in this webinar, because there are so many directions that we can go. But really, our first exercise of imagining our roots, I would urge you to try that out. I never asked in the chat, but you can share in the chat what that first exercise was like. I know, Sheila, you shared, but you can tap into your roots at any moment, when you're teaching, when you're standing up, when you're driving, when it's safe to do so. And your breath as well. These are your two key allies because they're always with you, no matter where you are. We'll be advising to fit your oxygen mask first with self-care. So where can you bring in more self-care to your life? Because it is not selfish. There's a new hashtag there for you. And trust that what is going on for you is your truth. So it's like leading, being that role model from the inside out. And upgrading your metaphors, we'll be coming on to that in a moment. So I'll just let that mysteriously hang there as to what that might mean. So for now, we're going to take another bend in the road, and I'll ask you to think of an elephant. So it is to introduce the questions I was asking, just in a bit of a fun, light-hearted way. Who noticed what questions I was asking? You can pop them in the chat if you were noticing the particular type of questions I was asking. What way was I phrasing them? Because this is important for this exercise. So let me see. I have to scroll down past all these yeses. Jumbo the elephant. What else about your elephant? Yes. What I said was, is there anything else about your elephant? The where questions, absolutely, yeah. It's so important when we're exploring where. Where are you? Where is the elephant? It can give an indication of how important it might be as well. Simple, open questions, absolutely, yes, yeah. And we call these kinds of questions the ultra-open questions of the coaching world. So I'll share the questions in a moment. Open-ended, yes. W questions, yes, absolutely. Specific questions about your elephant, absolutely. Because I am interested in you and your elephant and what it's like. And for those of you, thank you for sharing that. What difference did you notice, if any, in the way I was asking these questions about what information came out? So Jeremy, you were noticing that it was specifically about your elephant, but what difference did that make when you were watching that, observing? Anyone can type in the chat. And I will share my screen. Where you are open and not judging. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So like the holding space exercise that we did earlier, we're very much removing any judgment from this. Okay, we're human, we can judge and critique ourselves, and we may have our little voices in our heads telling us things. And this is the invitation to just relax the judgment for a while and open up to the creativity that we hold within us. Because I was asking to explore the elephant like this, because it's a wonderful way to demonstrate how utterly unique we all are. Because I'm sure if I asked all of you here, all 54 people here live, if you had similar or different elephants, and if I explored with these questions in this way, most likely you would all have different elephants. There may be similarities, but I'm almost 100% they would be different in your unique way, because how you represent your version of the elephant is very much unique to you and your reality. So these come from a questioning way called Clean Questions, and we'll recommend resources in the follow-up to this webinar. There's a lady, Julie McCracken, who uses this in her primary school class and has written a book called Clean in the Classroom. It's a wonderful way to tap into our creativity, but also our metaphors. So we're getting to the thread of why metaphors are important and why noticing them and perhaps changing our metaphors to create solid foundations can be really helpful. So these are the questions I asked. What kind of elephant is that? Is there anything else about that elephant? And where is the elephant? So, do you want to share in the chat what that was like, or any metaphors that came up for anyone around your foundations? So when your foundations are exactly as you'd like them to be, they're like what? Would anyone like to share? Pop in the chat or on camera, just unmuting. Ooh, a storm with lightning bolts from all directions. Wow. Is there anything else about that storm when there's lightning bolts from all directions? Leanne was saying, sorry, Linda, it cut off. It was nice speaking to you. Yes, the higher powers called you back to the main room. It's awful when we're mid-conversation. A deserted beach. Gorgeous. What kind of deserted beach is that deserted beach? Ross, I like that Pauline's foundations were from real life and based on something that gives her confidence. It was very relatable. Gorgeous. Catherine, a mountain in the Alps. Yes. Andrea, at the side of the cliff, the foundation, ooh, can collapse at any point. And when it's like that for you, Andrea, if you think about it, how would you like your foundations to be as well? A swan in murky waters with lots of other creatures trying to look poised and calm, but flapping underneath, trying to just get through the day. Yeah. And when it's like that, a swan, you can ask yourself, what would the swan like to have happen when it's like that? Because this is about creating the foundations as we really want them, that are going to really help us be solid in our day. Jenna, Mary Poppins, the umbrella taking me wherever I'm needed. Yes, wonderful. Interesting. Yeah, Linda, your partner and I found it hard to use visual foundations. We both tend to use breathing to get us grounded. Yeah, I will think of a visual foundation in future. Yeah, Lovely you said that, because of course it depends on how, we prefer to use our senses, and the visual, the sight is one aspect. So yeah, I love that you found your breath. We can feel things kinesthetically or hear things auditory, so we can tap into any of our senses. Yeah. Joe, a warm beach with a lapping sea. Yes, the forest in the autumn. Rather than a luxury car, I'm a transit van. Wonderful. So thumbs it up, classroom to classroom, trying to deliver a good lesson. Yes, Sally, an apple tree. Yeah, what kind of apple tree is that? It's more like a feeling of coming back to myself than a visual. Yeah. And even when it's that feeling, you can think about what kind of feeling is that feeling when you're coming back to yourself. What kind of feeling? Linda, a walk in autumn through lots of beautiful leaves where everything is calm, with a chance to focus on the now, being in the moment. Yes, gorgeous. I'm with you there on your walk. Sally was an apple tree, yes, from her childhood, which made me feel nostalgic. Yeah, Vicky, a forest, wonderful. Oh, I love this. Thank you all for sharing. And what I'd love to hear is what that was like for you, sharing that, because Francine, when you were sharing, you were feeling nostalgic as Sally was sharing her apple tree. But this is what we're tapping into here when we're exploring, because we have three main domains that we operate with throughout the day. We have our sensory, so you've already mentioned the visual and the feeling. So we've got our main five senses: sight, hearing, feeling, touch, taste, smell. Then we have our conceptual, where we make meaning out of things, like this money will buy me a coffee, for example. And then we have our metaphoric realm, which is our third type of domain. And why I was asking you to explore in this way is that it can really tap into our uniqueness and also the power that we hold within us as a way of expressing who we truly are in the world. So that feeling that it can evoke, that nostalgia or that power or that foundation and grounding, can really help us through the day, because it is a way of kind of bypassing everything else, kind of like all the crap, in one way, pardon me, kind of to get to the real truth of who we are, and what we're saying. And that's why I'm introducing these questions and asking you to explore in this way. Yes, it's fun as well, maybe slightly weird, but it also has a real deep, powerful meaning too, as our way of expressing ourselves in the world. The warm sandy beach, I love it. I felt like I was talking to myself there by speaking about it, got deeper into it the more I spoke. Wonderful. I love that. And I'm taking that was in a good way, talking to yourself. Yeah, because it's an invitation to go within, because so much of what we're doing can feel like on the external. And this is your invitation to go within and really notice how you're doing. Thinking of happy times, being free to do anything. I love the water idea. And now thinking of the beach. Yeah, I love that. And where our mind is going as well. Because just wrapping up this exercise, and thank you all so much for trying this, is that you can go there anytime. So you can try this with your class. Karen, when you were sharing that story around the elephant, and when that boy shared that the elephant has a mouth, that what you were sharing, you can even explore it. What kind of mouth is that mouth? And just, have a bit of fun with this. Is there anything else about the mouth? Where is the mouth? And just to see, it's like our way of getting into the, not getting into the minds, but in a good way of really exploring what's going on for ourselves and other people as well. So you can go there anytime, which is why I'm asking you to think about foundations and the kind of foundations that you want to have, because then the more you focus on that, the more likely you are to actually be those foundations, if that makes sense, because where our attention goes, energy flows. So the more energy we give to our thinking or our metaphors, that's what our reality will become. Okay, can give you more follow-up information on that, because it's something that I could talk about till the cows or the elephants come home. But any questions before we move on to our next topic, or any clarifications needed, you can pop in the chat or ask it. You're all good. Okay. So, our next model. I mentioned drama earlier. I'm not sure how what that might have evoked within you. Not more drama. We're here to explore foundations of good health and well-being. So why I bring in this model is it's something that I notice is played out often in my life, in other people's lives. I also coach people as well as train, and really in society as a whole, if we look at our world just now. So this model, some of you may have come across it before. It originally comes from transactional analysis, where we explore the parent-adult-child dynamic within each one of us, not necessarily between parents, adults, and children, but it can be too. But then Stephen Karpman took that model, the parent-adult-child model that was developed by Eric Byrne and the games people play. But Stephen Karpman took that model and created this triangle, renamed the roles, and called it the drama triangle, which I feel is so apt in how we can get caught up in the dramas of what's going on in our environment at any moment. Because we're human, this is what we do. And we can take on one or all of these roles, and just notice as I'm explaining them what you most resonate with, without any judgment or criticism, because we will resonate with one or all of them, as I said. So in no particular order, the first aspect or role in the drama triangle is the rescuer. So I do sometimes describe this as the Mary Poppins, but because that was someone's metaphor, you own your metaphor as your positive metaphor. Where I refer to this as the Mary Poppins. It's like the person that always has the bag of things to help sort things out. You know, the person that always has the plasters if someone's cut their knee, or the pen if you forgot your pen. So the person who's always there to lend you a hand and help you out, which is wonderful. And with all of these roles, there becomes a tipping point on the seesaw, the pivot point of where we're rescuing at the expense of our own boundaries, our own health and well-being. So this is about noticing where that tipping point is for you, and at whose expense are we rescuing. Does that make sense? The other role is the persecutor. The persecutor sees everyone else as the problem, and it's got nothing to do with them. I sometimes refer to this as the BSE crisis, the blame someone else crisis. This maybe rings a bell with people, or you maybe you can think of people that might be like, and also notice it in yourselves. So where do we become the persecutor? I liken this to when I go home, when I used to be able to go home to Ireland and see my mother. I turn into like the teenager. No offense to teenagers, but I see it in my teenage children just now. I was becoming the persecutor. I start rolling my eyes and, oh, nothing is good enough and you can't do anything right. And, you know, I'll just do it. So we persecute to the detriment of ourselves and perhaps the other person as well. And then the other role, and most often is the final role, and is always at the bottom of the triangle, is the victim. And the victim feels powerless, as it says there, because this is all about power dynamics. And power in a way of meaning feeling empowered. The victim feels powerless, can't do anything for themselves, and feels everything is done onto them. And the victim will seek out a rescuer to rescue them. because they cannot help themselves. And if the rescuer doesn't rescue them, they may turn into the persecutor, because that person that always rescued them has stopped rescuing them. So what are they going to do? Can't do anything for themselves. They're going to persecute or seek out another rescuer. And on and on and on goes this dynamic. We can take on all of these roles. We can be in the drama triangle just for ourselves as well in any moment. So this isn't about guilt trips or anything or judgments. It's about noticing this dynamic for yourself. And in the classrooms that you're in, or with the people that you deal with, or walking into that staff room in any moment. And why it starts with noticing and becoming aware of this is then we have a choice point. So this is like the pivot point on the seesaw. This is the choice point. Are we going to go more into the drama? Well, maybe. Sometimes it feels so good just to let it all out. We need to let it out. Or are we going to choose to step out altogether in this drama triangle? Because while we're in it, that disempowering, we're giving our power away to the other forces. We're giving it away. So we can choose to be in our power. We can tap into our breath, our roots, our metaphor for what our foundations were like. The apple tree, the sandy beach. We can tap straight into that immediately and feel more grounded and therefore choose to step out of this triangle. And how do we do that? Well, it's quite simple, but not simplistic. We ask this question, which I call the power switch question, because it switches the dynamic of power, where it becomes power with as opposed to power over anybody. So you can take a picture of that if you wish. And the question is, what would you like to have happen? Now, for those of you in the linguistics field, it's not grammatically correct, and I apologize for that. And why it is phrased in this way is that it's like back to that openness of the holding space. It's like you don't have to do anything. We are first of all exploring what the options could be like. What would you like to have happen? What would you like to have happen? So you can put emphasis on different words. What would you like to have happen? What would you like to have happen? Brilliant. Okay, welcome back. So, does anyone want to share briefly how that was for you? What did you notice? What emerged? Any of those? You can type in the chat or you can speak on camera or not on camera, whichever. What was that like for you, exploring the drama triangle? And also, what role did you resonate with most? Persecutor? Rescuer? Yes. We're often the rescuer? Yes. Absolutely. And it's a role I would resonate a lot with as well, because we want to help. Teachers, trainers, coaches, whatever slant you take on it, you're there to teach and help. And also, if you look at the etymology, like the root of the word educate, you're also drawing that information out from the young adults, the children that you're teaching. So it's a balance of the giving and the receiving, the telling and the asking. And that's what this dynamic is all about. So let me see. 3 points of the triangle at any one time. Yes, yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm a pinball in a pinball machine. Often the rescuer, yes. Interesting, we sometimes take on different roles depending on the situation. Absolutely, yes. We are human beings and can be very influenced by what else is going on. Commonalities, how much you can be in all three at one given time and how it drains your reserves. Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm not glad it drains reserves, that you noticed that and gave words to it as well, because that's the first point. Then you can ask, when it drains your reserves and it's like that, what would you like to have happen? Jill, definitely teachers are rescuers. Yeah, very, very true. Absolutely. I can change between rescuer and victim within different scenarios. Yeah. And, this is all a choice. We can choose to stay there. And we all need what sometimes I like to call hippo time, wallow time, just to be there, in the murky mud of whatever's going on. We need that too. But again, what's our choice going to be in that situation? To be most in our foundations, grounded in our power, our full power. And power in a way that it's about having rulership over our life, balanced with what's going on externally. Different roles with different people. Oh yes, indeed, absolutely. All the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. I really think it's so apt in our life. So what role are you going to choose to take on? Good to talk to others. I've seen how withdrawing from rescuing can make you become a victim. It's hard to break out of the drama. It is. And it's possible. And when it's hard to break out of the drama, what would you like to have happen? And that's Linda. So we can ask that anytime we're in that problem. What would I like to have happen now? Because it is hard. And we've got the choice. At work, feel like the rescuer. More like a victim. Yeah. A victim of the external circumstances. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. And I already say the power switch question would be useful to move forward. And that's exactly what it is for, Linda. Yeah. It's a way to move forward, or even may not be forward, to create spaciousness and to move, to create it. So it doesn't mean there has to be action straight away, because this is the balancing act between being and doing, but it opens up the conversation. And this is what we need more of now. It's not about the I'm right, you're wrong, you're, whatever. It's about stepping beyond that to explore how we could create some momentum, movement, space. So it's so powerful. And if you don't want to ask it with the have in it, if that feels a bit weird, you can just ask, what would you like now? What would you like to have happen? What would you like to happen? Drama becomes a habit. Oh yes, absolutely. And Constantine, you were sharing while others were in the breakout room, can be really useful with your classes. It's something I use with my children in a way where there's issues, dramas. I'm like, well, what's going on here? Let's draw it out. And usually you get the, oh, here she goes again, mom, eye roll, persecutor. And at the same time, it can be really useful. It's like, are we in the drama triangle right now? Okay, let's talk about it. Now we know where we are. This is our starting point. What would you like to have happen? What would we like to have happen? Okay. So again, something you can take away, notice, maybe have a little chuckle when you notice you're in there or where you are in the drama triangle, and have that choice. So it is an invitation and maybe a reassurance to know that we do have that choice, even when things feel like they are just now in these uncertain situations. We can have choices even within that. And that can create spaciousness for us. And also to let creativity and options flow. So that is the drama triangle. Thank you for exploring and sharing what you noticed as well, and to think about what difference that makes for you. So in our final 15 minutes or so, we're going to explore briefly other strategies. So we really have been on a journey, if it feels like that for you, with grounding, holding space, exploring the elephant, introducing clean language questions as a way to strip out the judgment, get to the heart of what's going on, metaphors as a fun way of really getting to the core of who we are, because even our language is a metaphor, you know. And these are some other practical strategies as well. We will share this PowerPoint and also backup notes too for you. So one thing is what's within your control. You may have already come across this, the circle of control. I like it. It's a very simple model. Maybe you think, oh great, what's in my control? But again, it can be really nice to ask yourself that question in any moment. Simple, again, but not simplistic. What's out of my control? Okay, maybe the circle might feel much, much bigger just now. What size is your circle? And what's in your control? Maybe that feels smaller just now. But again, it's to give that representation if you're visual. If you're more kinesthetic or auditory, you know, what sounds or feelings would you associate with that? What is in your control? Okay. And next is something for you to take away, and you can do this in your copious spare time, is the Wheel of Life. Again, you might have come across this. It's something I love to come back to time and time again because it's very versatile. First of all, it's a circle as opposed to linear, and the circle can be the real supportive structure for us, particularly in these times. You draw your spokes on your wheel. In this example, we've got 8 spokes on the wheel. 8 is the magic number for today. You can label them. So thinking about your bird's eye view of your life right now, what are you going to choose to label these spokes with? So here's one I made earlier with some suggestions. So, you know, I've put in family there, career, travel, health. Okay, let's leave out travel, leisure, health, work-life balance, finances, growth. You know, these can be anything. You could just do one for work-life balance and, you know, break that down within the spokes. And then you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. So 10 is the outer spoke, 1 is here. So you rate them as a snapshot of where you feel you are right now in relation to your balance, or in actually achieving like satisfying self-care, for example. And it's about being honest with yourself. Okay, it's subjective, it's a subjective snapshot. We are subjective beings as humans. And then once you've rated them all, and just notice, you know, if you're rating it all 1s, maybe you're just being a little too hard on yourself. So 1 being the lowest score. So just notice what your score is, and then you join the dots. This is my favorite bit. Joining the dots of your wheel of life. And then stepping back, ask yourself, how far will this wheel take you as your unique wheel of life? Honestly. So it might be a bit of a bumpy ride here, but then you can zoom in and decide which spoke would I like to focus on right now. So without going into overwhelm of, oh no, look at the ball, it's all wonky. It's like, just choose one. What one aspect would I like to focus on right now? That's the wheel of life. A lovely way to use, you know, if you're starting on a project or a task, you know, put it on the wheel. So there we are. That's something for you to do. And often people notice, you know, each aspect is one segment of our life. So where are we placing most of our energy? And where would we like it to be? Okay, number 3 in this whirlwind tour of creating our foundations is that we have an outcome focus. And what I mean by that is what we want more of. So when somebody shared in the chat that their foundations were, I can't remember the exact words, but it was like being on the edge of a cliff and that it might crumble at any moment. So asking, what would I like to have happen, or how would I like them to be more stable or less crumbly, is what we want to focus on. So what we want more of in any situation. So that's what I mean by outcome focus. So it's like setting your goals or a higher vision, but it's in any moment. So that's what's really versatile about it. So what would I like to have happen now? It's coming up to dinner time. So what would you like in this moment, today, this week? It can be a really lovely way to start off the week for you, for your class, setting your intentions of how you want things to be, and also being flexible with where your actual week goes, with what else emerges. When your foundations are exactly as you would like them to be is another way of focusing on what we want more of. Because again, I'll say it again, where our attention goes, our energy flows, and it can be more like that. Right, finally, gratitude. I've lumped them all into one. Kindness, humour. What's so funny about these times? Where can we find a moment to maybe laugh at ourselves? Because there's a lot of serious stuff going on just now. But where can we sprinkle a little bit of humour into the day? What can we be grateful for? I'm grateful for feeling my feet on the ground when I wake up in the morning. I'm grateful for this spaciousness in my evening. Grateful for being here. Grateful for EIS offering this. Thank you. Previous participants have shared how they enjoy having a gratitude journal. So they actually like to write things out and speak to the journal. That may be an option. Or a jar, the gratitude jar. A nice thing with young adults or children as well. What are you grateful for? Reviewing your day, what can you be grateful for? And creating acts of kindness. And again, the starting point is with yourself. And Dr. David Hamilton, some of you may have heard of him, has actually explored the science of kindness. And this is a quote for him: kindness and compassion alter your neural structures of our brains. So the pathways in our brains are actually altered when we focus more on kindness and compassion and gratitude. And it can make you at least 25% happier. So your task is go off and try that out and see if you feel even a percentage happier with that. You know, so it's like neurons that fire together in our brains, then they wire together, and that becomes our reality. So what are we going to focus on? Okay. So it doesn't mean we stop focusing on any of the negative things or anything or become unrealistic, but it's about what we want more of. Okay. I'm glad that you're all still here because we are coming towards the end of the session in our whistle-stop tour of exploring this topic. And this is a summary of what we looked at in terms of foundations: becoming grounded, holding space, exploring the drama of our life without judgment, without criticism, and without needing to fix it or rescue anybody yet. And stepping into your power. And then tools and techniques of how we can inspire good health and well-being for ourselves and others, moving forward or backwards or staying where we are.